In the last lesson, we explored the powerful index and match functions. Now let us dive into the world of pivot tables and pivot charts. What is a pivot table? A pivot table is an exceptional tool within Excel that empowers users to summarize and analyze data with a lot of ease. It offers a wide range of functionalities, allowing you to sort, reorganize, group, count, total, or average data effortlessly. Pivot tables are very flexible, enabling you to structure and arrange your data fields in various ways. You can choose which fields to use as row labels, column labels, filters, or values, providing multiple dimensions for analysis. With pivot tables, you can quickly summarize and aggregate data, calculate sums, counts, averages, maximums, minimums, and a lot more. The dynamic nature of pivot tables allows for easy updates as your underlying data changes, eliminating the need to recreate the table. You can sort and filter your data, apply grouping and binning techniques, and even create calculated fields and items for custom calculations. Pivot tables also offer drill-down capabilities, enabling you to explore the detailed information behind the summarized values. By integrating pivot charts, you can visually represent your summarized data in various chart types. The automation and efficiency of pivot tables streamline data analysis processes, saving time and effort. With their comprehensive features and immense flexibility, pivot tables serve as an invaluable tool for deriving meaningful insights, identifying trends, and making data-driven decisions. Creating a pivot table is quite simple. Just click anywhere in the table. Go to the Insert tab and click on Pivot Table. From there, we can select the table or range we want to use. In this case, the entire table is already selected. We then have the option to create the pivot table in a new or existing worksheet. Let us choose Existing Worksheet option and click OK. Great, we now have a pivot table in the existing worksheet. The pivot table field list appears as a box and it lists all the column names from our table. These column names are referred to as fields in the pivot table context. The field list is partitioned into 4 sections: filters, column labels, row labels, and values. Filters allow us to apply filters to our data. Column and row labels determine how our data will be displayed in the pivot table. Values represent the numerical data that we want to summarize. Let us see how these partitions work. We can select the region field and drag it to row labels. Then drag the product name field to column labels and price to values. Please keep in mind that only numerical fields can be placed in the values area. So we can choose either price or quantity for this example. Now we can see a pivot table that summarizes our data. It shows the number of products bought in each region. For example, in the East region, 3 products were bought, and so on. We can rearrange the position of the fields by dragging them around. If we want to remove a field from the pivot table, then we can simply drag it back to the field list. Additionally, we can add multiple fields to any particular label, whether it is a row label or a column label. By default, the values in the pivot table are aggregated using the sum function. However, we can change this aggregation. By clicking on the inverted triangle icon, we can go to Value Field Settings and choose different aggregation options such as count or average, maximum or minimum, depending upon our requirements. As you can see, pivot tables offer tremendous flexibility and allow us to perform various operations based on our data and requirements. We can customize and analyze our data in ways that provide meaningful insights. Now, let us put our knowledge into practice with a quick exercise. I have prepared a data set for you. Using this data set, I want you to create a pivot table that shows the total sales value, which is price multiplied by quantity for each region and product. Explore different options such as rearranging the fields or changing the aggregation function and customizing the pivot table to suit your preferences. Now, let us go through the solution. Here is an example of how the pivot table could be set up. Drag region to row labels. Drag product name to column labels. Drag price to values. Change the aggregation function of price to sum. The resulting pivot table will show the total sales value for each region and product combination. Now, let us explore the insights that we can derive from this data set using the pivot table. By dragging the region field to the row labels, we can very easily compare the total sales value for each region. The pivot table reveals that the South region has the highest total sales, followed by the West, East, and North regions. Next, let us analyze the sales performance of different products. By dragging the product name field to the column labels, we can compare the sales of product A and product B across regions. It is evident that product B has higher sales in most regions, except for the North region, where product A performs better. The pivot table also highlights regional disparities in sales. For example, the South region consistently shows higher sales compared to other regions. This insight can help us focus our marketing efforts and thus allocate resources accordingly. Now, let us assess the impact of pricing on sales. By examining the price field in the value section, we can see that product B generally commands a higher price and generates higher sales. This insight clearly suggests that customers may perceive product B as having higher value, allowing us to optimize our pricing strategies. The pivot table enables us to identify regions or products with untapped market potential. By analyzing areas where sales are relatively low, we can develop targeted marketing campaigns or sales initiatives to increase market penetration. The pivot table facilitates comparative analysis. We can compare sales values for the same product across different regions, enabling us to identify regional preferences and adapt our strategies accordingly. Pivot tables provide us with invaluable insights into our data. So we have successfully created a pivot table to summarize the total sales value by region and product. The pivot table allows us to quickly analyze and gain insights from our data. Pivot tables offer even more possibilities and customization options. So feel free to explore further and experiment as much as you can. with different settings to gain a deeper understanding of your data. In our next lecture, we will delve into pivot charts, which complement pivot tables by providing visual representations of our summarized data.